Well, good morning, Southern Oregon. Alice Lema here with Pete Belcastro. We're both brokers at John L. Scott, Southern Oregon, and we're here with the Real Estate Show, our weekly broadcast of all things housing, property, real estate here in Southern Oregon. And Pete, we'd love to get an update from you. You were unfortunately one of the victims of the fire. How are things going with you this week?
Well, this is the 30-day mark this week.
Is it already?
Yeah, 2 days ago was the 30 days since the fires that really, hurt obviously a lot of people here in Shady Cove, Eagle Point, I mean, all around, Chiloquin, everywhere. So, you just one day at a time, Alice, is what you do. So that's what you do, and you just keep going, right? You never give up, and that's what we do. I wanted to say today, I'm just thrilled to have Dave Arrasmith is going to be joining us in a little bit. He's the Jackson County Assessor, and he's joined us every year since he's been the assessor to talk about property taxes. And this year, really important because we've had these fires. What effect is it going to have on taxes for governments? How are they going to, what happens to people's property? It all comes down to the assessor after this is all done to determine those values. And it's a huge job. So we're going to hear from the guy who's in charge of it in a little bit. So we're excited about that today.
Yeah, and it's a complicated process. Oregon is not like other states, not directly connected to your sales price, thank goodness. But and then there's also concerns in the future with the downturn in the commercial situation and businesses struggling and a little bit of job struggle and people leaving and going somewhere else. It's a big
we've been hit by all this, and the assessor is kind of the person at the end of the year that pulls it all together, the statistics that determine where we are going forward. One of the questions we want to know this year is, what is the valuation from Jackson County in 2020 going to be? That's going to be released, in 2021. It's strange, but that's how it works. So did we go up double digits like we did a few years ago? What has that been? So all these are out there. And so Dave is standing by, and I can't wait to hear what he's got to say, because I, as a person who lost everything, you have those questions. Well, I applied for my property tax to be eliminated. Is that going to work? Do I get a refund? You name it, you've got questions, and hopefully Dave's got some answers for us today.
Well, and it was such an unexpected situation with the fires. Our little valley really pulled together and came out as good as, we made it as good as possible. But now we're left with these empty lots, a lot of damage, some hazardous waste. It's like, what does that do to your tax bill?
I've seen, by the way, a lot of people out with hazard suits out there, but they're generally not cleaning up yet. They're still going through the debris, trying to sift through and finding people's things if there's anything left. So we still have a long, long way to go before we even turn and start the first cleanup. And boy, that's going to be a welcome sight. But when is it going to happen? Who knows?
Well, so Dave Arrasmith, the Jackson County Assessor, will be with us shortly. We've got a quick break. Guy Giles, Mutual of Omaha Mortgage, is our sponsor today. We appreciate Guy. He's not going to be here, but Dave Arrasmith, the Jackson County Assessor, will be here. So Pete and Alice will be right back. Well, welcome back to the Real Estate Show, folks. I'm Alice Lema here with Pete Belcastro. We're both brokers at John L. Scott, Southern Oregon, and we're having a lucky day today. We have Dave Arrasmith, the Jackson County Assessor, Tax Assessor, with us today, and we're going to be talking a lot about what happens when you have fire damage and other natural disaster to your real property. And we're also going to get a little update from Pete Belcastro, how things are going with him.
Well, one of the things I'm so excited Dave is here, first of all, Alice, because he's been gracious enough since he's been the county assessor to join us each year about this time to talk about, property taxes, because, they're due right around election time every year, in November. And so all that's out there. And so Dave comes along with a lot of knowledge about the property tax world and how that affects each homeowner in Jackson County. And the biggest things are about the assessments, because you and I have had discussions since, January 1. What are the values that we're going to see in Jackson County this year, right? So Dave, start us off with this thing. How did such a strange year, but what does 2020 look like, and how did we end up with in 2019?
We're up. I'll Overall, probably 7 or 8%. Some areas more than others, but I'd say overall, you can most areas will trend up. The real market value will trend up somewhere around there, and but again, most properties are taxed on the maximum assessed value, which grows 3%.
Yeah.
So their tax bill looks like it goes up about 3% every year, maybe a little less.
Yeah. Hey, Alice, do you ever get people talking about property taxes much when you're showing property around? I've
Constantly. It's a big deal. Yeah, especially if they're from somewhere else.
Yeah. And how do you explain? I mean, the one thing that Oregon is so unique, and Dave is right in the middle of it, of course, is that we have a real market value that Dave said, and we have an assessed value, which is the tax value. And that just is so confusing, seems to so many people. But in over time, it seems to have, I guess, made more sense, and is people more accepting of it, do you think, Dave?
If you judge it by the amount of appeals, protests that we get, it's way better than the old system. In 1997, when Measure 50 passed, we were somewhere around 2,000 appeals every year. The Board of Equalization would open up in February and go 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, all the way like till May. Last year, they rebranded the Board of Equalization because equalization is really not practical or possible with maximum assessed value. Right. So the Board of Equalization got rebranded to the Board of Property Tax Appeal. And last year we had around 50. So that's a big drop from 2,000.
Oh, that is.
It's amazing, isn't it? When you think about that, wow. Well, I think that's probably okay.
Yeah,
but
works for me.
The problem is the 3%. When you think about this, Dave, Alice, we started the 3% back in 1997 or 98, I believe. Here we are now going to enter into 2021, and that I call it the 3% creep. There every year. And I'm telling you, that is getting really high for lots of people. And I'm wondering if we're going to have some sort of revolt again on property taxes. But the 3% is continuing to rise, and that is really, grows more and more each year. Just a precaution.
Very true. But real market value also grows. And back before Measure 50, taxes were based on real market value because the other number didn't exist. And so, and right now, the ratio of maximum assessed value to real market value is, so I'll say somewhere around 65%. So people really don't want to see their taxes based on real market value again, because they're at 65% of that right now. So yeah, real market value is creeping up too. I guess that's my point.
Well, and I think the prices are going to have a lot of volatility now because of the fires and the corona. So what kind of phone calls and conversations are you getting from our local citizens, Dave?
Right now, we're getting a lot of calls simply about how that affects their property tax. We're also fielding phone calls that we really can't answer, like, where can I get housing? I don't have a house. I need a place to stay. I need food. I need assistance. And I guess it's reasonable to think people would call my office, but really we don't deal with those helping or assist the homeowners that way. We can assist them though, because there's a statute that allows for a reduction in property tax if there's been a fire damage. So we're asking, and we got out really early. My office did, and put a press release out, I think like within 2 days of the fire, trying to explain that process. And we sent staff out to, actually it was staff's idea. I wish I could say it was mine. Staff said, Dave, can we go out to the expo and set up and take forms out there and answer questions. And I said, geez, that's a good idea. Wish I'd have thought of that. But anyway, so we did. We were out there for almost 2 weeks, I think. And then at South Medford High School, there was an emergency coordination assistance of different organizations like Red Cross and FEMA, and my office participated in that for almost 2 weeks straight, all Saturday and Sundays included. So,
Wow.
Dave,
so
am I
we've been pretty busy with that.
Dave, am I going to get a refund? Are people going to get a refund for the property taxes when their houses were lost and everything from the time they were lost to the end of I guess, November? Are you going to issue refund checks to people who've paid those property taxes and their places are destroyed?
That's a great question.
Actually, not quite like that. I mean, the concept is there, but it works a little different. The schools and government operate off of a fiscal year starting in July and ends in June. And so the tax bill that's going to go out in a couple of weeks is to fund the school and cities during that time period from July through next June. And the statute says the time that of those months that the property was gone because of fire damage, we can reduce the taxes to reflect that time period. So, and they count a partial month as a full month. So the July, August, and September were the months before the fire, if you count September as a full month. So 3 months out of 12 is 25% or 1/4. So for instance, if someone had a mobile home and it was totally destroyed, they would, when the bill comes out, they could get a credit for the 9 months that it was gone, or a 75% credit off of their tax, and then they would be left paying the remainder, the 25%.
So Alice, did you get that? Because so even if, okay, so because the way you described the tax
year, it's about the tax year. Yeah.
Your house was destroyed, you're paying for those 3 months that you were there because the tax year started July, August, and September, as Dave was saying. Therefore, you're still going to owe some, even though your place is not there. So that's kind of that didn't really come out that way when I first thought about that. But yeah, that makes sense. So the problem is that Dave, is that people have scattered, all over the place, and finding them is going to be something. So hopefully, if you know people, that you get them to get information in to be able to get refunds and this kinds of stuff back. Otherwise, we're going to scatter and they're not going to be found, and then it's a bigger mess than even than that.
Well, we've captured a lot of those already. They've sent in forms and made the application for. So we have that. We have a big list already, and we're anticipating once the tax bill goes out. The people that if it hasn't crossed their mind yet, when they get the tax bill, they're going to say, "Oh, wow, I wonder if I have to pay the whole thing," and we'll probably get the rest of those calls in the next few weeks.
So it sounds like you're pretty sure you'll hear from everybody.
I would think, but except there are a few people that think that, believe it or not, think that their taxes go to a worthwhile cause. They've told me that, and they're pleased to pay taxes, and they write it off as an expense. And there could be some people out there who simply will say, "I'm fine with paying my property tax or paying this amount. I'm not going to request a reduction." But I don't suspect that'll be everybody.
Well, and we don't have sales tax in the state of Oregon. And for all the newcomers, because we do have a lot of newly relocated people, we don't have sales tax in Oregon. So we depend a lot, keeping Jackson County as nice as it is, and our other counties, from the property taxes.
Right. The property tax, that funds the fire department, the police department, the school teachers, and there's a lot of the public gets a lot of benefit from those services, and you know, you sometimes they put up a bond, you know, they want to put up a bond issue like for a new prison or whatever. And many times it passes. People are happy to chip in to have some of those services.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Dave uses the word happy to chip in there. I'm happy to chip in. I don't know if I would say happy to chip in. I'm curious as to what's going to happen in November here, because we have some levies on the ballot, you know, and look, you had voters have dispersed out of here. People have left, and yet some of these levies are out there, as we talk about. And so there's going to be fewer people to pay those taxes. And so you watch, Alice. Governments are really good at coming back, wanting more money out of this. And I hope they don't, because we have been reversibly kind of shaken by all of this. So beware if you're one of those people. There's a lot going on there in terms of assessments and how these taxes are going to work for you. So we want people to be aware and be smart. Dave's there to help you. I know that. So and explain it all. As crazy as it sounds, every time we do a show with Dave, it's like, how do you keep all this straight? How do we explain this to people from California who look at this thing and go, your property taxes are not tied to the real market value? They're what? They're separated, things like that.
Well, and we've got a break coming up real quick here. So just want to remind everybody, we're speaking with Dave Arrasmith today. He's the assessor, Jackson County tax assessor. Fascinating conversation. Pete Belcastro and I will be right back, so do not touch that dial. Well, welcome back, Southern Oregon, to the Real Estate Show. Pete Belcastro and I, Alice Lema, we're both brokers at John L. Scott, Southern Oregon, and we're having a lively conversation. One of our favorite guests, Dave Arrasmith, the Jackson County Assessor, Jackson County Tax Assessor. And, you know, we've had such lively discussions in years past, but this year in particular, Dave, we're very, very curious not only about the fire situation and how that's going to alter taxes, but the corona, the COVID, and business loss and wage loss, and how is any of that going to affect the coffers, so to speak, at Jackson County?
You know, that's going to play out, I'm sure, but it's right now we're mostly speculating. You know, we don't. Our valuations aren't based on predictions. We're usually kind of running behind the market. We wait until sales happen and then analyze the sales, and then we make our valuations based on that date, on that trend from new sales. I would suspect that there are going to be businesses that like restaurants and hotels and motels that their income is down significant from prior years. Bars and taverns and movie theaters. So mostly on business property, as buyers base their purchase price on a estimated future income stream and the risk involved with getting that, the security of getting that income stream. And so I would suspect, because the income stream is disrupted, we're going to see sale prices drop on commercial stuff. I'm not sure you know how the virus is affecting homeownership, but it could for sure.
Well, we're going to see changes. Nothing's going to stay the same where it is, and I think your office is going to go through probably. You're right. Because you follow all of this. Well, I think eventually your office is going to be whacked by a lot of this, Dave, because there's going to be, you only had 50 board, property appeals last year. I'll bet you this year you're going to have a ton of them, and you're going to see, and I think you're going to see them from all over the place.
You know, if you remember back during the Great Recession, when the market dropped and started dropping, I'm going to say around 2008. Mm-hmm. Real market value was dropping year after year, and yet people's property tax was going up 3%. And we were getting questions, how can my property tax go up when real market value is dropping? I'm sure if you think about it, you'll recall those conversations. So that scenario could replay itself if real market value starts dropping, if it doesn't drop below MAV, it's MAV or real market value is the assessed value every year, depending on which one is the lowest. So currently, in most cases, MAV is lower than real market value. So when the real market value drops, unless it drops below MAV, MAV will continue to be what the tax bill is based on.
Okay, so what do you do around, like, say, in Talent and Phoenix, and even up in Shady Cove? I mean, there's fires everywhere around here. How is that going to affect, like, the values of the other places that didn't burn? I mean,
and Eagle Point too. All that. Yeah.
They can't be the same as they were, right? I mean, it has to have had some sort of an effect, a negative effect, I would assume, on the neighborhoods that are still around these areas. Is that true, or does that play into it at all?
I'm gonna believe that the sales that we get in the future are gonna be basically bare land sales, and not improved property sales, because those homes are burnt to the ground. So what would sell would be until they got rebuilt, would be the land, and so the land would be, I guess, competing with other bare land. I don't know
but what about the places that are next to? I'm curious as to the places that survived. Do they see a decrease in value? Alice, what do you think? I mean, how do you go around the neighborhoods that are surrounding what was destroyed? Do you think that's going to change in terms of buyers' perceptions of this?
Well, I don't know. We just had a whole bunch of appraisals come in on property near the fire area. And except for having to do extra photographs to show proof of life, it didn't really change. But I thought that was because it was too soon.
Well, it has to affect. I mean, I don't know. It sure seems that it's going to affect those properties that are near it in terms of their value or the appraisals. I mean, we haven't even talked. Maybe we should do a show with an appraiser again, because they're going to appraise based on things in the last 6 months around them in those neighborhoods, and a lot of them are gone. I don't know. It seems like there's got to be a negative. You just can't keep going up and up and up like we see our market doing. There's got to be some sort of a negative effect's going to happen sooner or later.
I could suggest that what you predict could really happen, but again, until property begins to sell, we won't be able to calibrate what that change is, and would it be a 5% change or a 20% change? Until we actually get the sales, it's hard to know. And you know, I'm looking at there are rental properties out there that didn't suffer the fire, and it looks like from what I read, their vacancy rates are almost they don't have any, and right. So their income stream is I would believe is increasing, and those properties might look attractive to an investor.
That's a good point. Are you aware of how much the rents have gone up? Because the insurance companies are paying the bill. And so there's landlords that normally would have an apartment or a small house for $1,200, and they're getting $1,600 a month right now.
Jeez.
Yeah.
I believe
because the
that
insurance companies are just paying it.
People are desperate. I mean, we've had manufactured homes for sale, Alice, that that have come up, and it's tragic when you hear these. And yes, so Dave, all that you're talking about, and I know we got a break coming, is that we're not really going to know the result of all this that's happened to us really until about a year from now, when you start preparing the stuff for, it's going to be, I guess, January 1, 2022, isn't it?
You're absolutely correct on that. We always follow the market. We're analyzing what's happening in the market and then making our adjustments. That's appraising 101. Appraisers don't usually try to make the market by throwing in their own predictions. They follow actual sales and make comparisons.
Yeah.
I found 3 homes that sold recently, and I can compare these 3 to the property I'm appraising to estimate a value. And that's, we have to have those sales.
But
Well,
to follow up on Pete, sorry, question real quick. So if you're out in Eagle Point and the neighbor's 5 houses burned down and you're trying to sell yours, how does that get assessed when the assessment comes back around?
Is that for me?
Yeah. I'm just wondering, are the properties that are going to be left, are they going to be taxed higher because the supply is lower?
no, that would
And
not.
no, we have to look at you have to realize most sales, most property is already on the tax roll, and we'll take last year's value and increase it or decrease it based on an analysis of sales. If we compare the sales price every time there's a sale, we compare that price to our tax roll value, and if that price is 5% higher, then the neighborhood gets raised up 5%. If we get a bunch of sales and we analyze them and the average is 5% below last year's tax roll value for that area, then we lower that area 5%. We simply can. We don't do individual appraisals. We have like 100,000 accounts, and they have to be done by trending whole neighborhoods.
By groups, yeah.
No, by groups.
So
Well,
are the new properties, when somebody rebuilds, the assessment will be on new construction at that
Yes.
point? So
Yes.
how will that be different?
Well, again, those properties, when they get rebuilt, they're going to be listed for sale, and they'll sell, and we'll be looking to value them at that sales price once they're rebuilt.
does the sales price, Dave, mean that they would generally say, I rebuild, say, in talent, and my whatever that came to, the assessed value is going to be the same as what they sold it for? Is that what people could expect or not expect?
Well, with fire, when property's destroyed by fire, not only do we reduce the real market value, but by statute, we need to reduce the maximum assessed value also. Okay. So it's like starting brand new. As soon as somebody's
okay.
What they're going to have, well, like January, we value all property on January 1st. So that's our valuation date. It's statewide. All 36 counties do the same thing. So all the properties in Phoenix and Talent that burnt down, their real market value for their house will go to 0. Right. Their land value will probably, unless there's some reason to change it, the land value will probably remain as it was. And the maximum assessed value will be reduced just like the real market value. And then down the road, when the new house is framed and put up, the new house will go on for its real market value, and then they'll take a ratio that exists during that year, say 60%. They'll take 60% of that new home value, and that'll be the additional math that gets added back on that tax bill.
See how easy that was, Alice?
Well, it's a very interesting process, and everybody's wondering what's going to happen with the value of those lots. Everybody's wondering.
And this is how they do it. I mean, this is how it's done. So you're getting the great information right from the guy who's going to have all this information, which is Dave, and they're going to distribute that out to us, so we're going to know about it, but we won't know about it for another year. That's what's so interesting about this entire conversation.
Yeah, we love having Dave Arrasmith on. Dave Arrasmith, Assessor, Jackson County. We're going to take a quick break. I have some messages from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Guy Giles, Mutual of Omaha Mortgage, and we're very grateful to him because this is a very important consumer-oriented show, and we get to have people like Dave talk to us about what's going on in Jackson County and Southern Oregon real estate. So do not touch that dial. Alice Lema, Pete Belcastro. We will be right back with after this word from our sponsor. Welcome back to the Real Estate Show, folks. I'm Alice Lema here with Pete Belcastro, and we're bringing to you today a show from Guy Giles, Mutual of Omaha Mortgage, one of our favorite lenders. He's our in-house lender and our sponsor here for the Real Estate Show. And he has arranged for us to have Dave Arrasmith, the assessor of Jackson County, here to visit with us today. We're talking about all kinds of interesting things, the impact of the corona, impact of the fire, and just taxes in general. It's tax time. Pete, are you ready for your taxes?
Well, I am, but I also want to ask Dave a couple of questions here because, Alice, this is something that consumers and real estate brokers like and buyers and sellers need. Dave, we had a lot of new construction going on in Jackson County, as you know, East Medford, White City, I mean, really all over. A lot of new construction. Are you keeping up with the values and getting those reassessed as they come on the tax rolls? Because it seems that with the fires and the destruction on one side, we have a lot of new construction on the other side. And are those places being reassessed to the new assessed value, which is reflecting the fact that it's no longer a lot, but a beautiful home?
We work every year starting around January all the way through the end of August, actually going out and visiting all new construction, measuring, getting measurements. We need square footage. Square footage is a major characteristic of value. The bigger the property, the more value. And getting photos, and so we're busy from January through the end of August every year. It seems, staff is wondering if they're going to get it all done, but they always manage to get it done. This next year, of course, we'll have all the new construction, and on top of that, we'll have all we'll have to visit the 3,000 some properties that were destroyed. So that'll be on top of our already to-do list. The good news is it takes a lot less time to take a house value and make it zero than it does to start and appraise a new house from the beginning and put a first appraisal out there. I can zero out a property pretty quick. So that's from my office, that workload should go pretty fast. And I told staff I'll handle all the appeals this year. Normally staff handles appeals, but in order to give them more time to get the added work done, I'll handle all the appeals and anything else I can do to make, take some work off their plate.
Well, it's going to be a really interesting year. There's no question, because with what we've seen, and a lot of people, we all depend on what your stats come out. So you said about a 7 to 8% general overall valuation increase. So Alice, if you're an investor and you're investing in properties, as we tell people generally, and I know it's not even all across the county, but still that's a pretty healthy increase in an investment for 1 year. Maybe a little bit higher than we want to see, but nonetheless, that's a good sign that our economy is doing okay still. But we can certainly see that in our stats every week with the sales we're seeing. My goodness, they have not slowed down with this pandemic and even with these fires. It's just remarkable.
So one of the things that the consumers were asking regarding the COVID side effect, this is before the fire, but it's still a relevant question because people are leaving the higher tax zip codes of Ashland, Jacksonville, if they can, because they're remote workers now. And so they're going and specifically choosing lifestyle, Klamath Falls, Josephine County, up, even further into Sutherland, because specifically their taxes are lower. And I'm just wondering if that trend continues, what kind of an impact might that have in the future?
Again, it's hard for me I don't predict, whether values are going to go up or down. We really wait until we get the evidence and then we analyze it. I know I read articles too that, you know, where people predict, and it's interesting. I read one the other day that they figure there'd be a lot of home sizes will probably go up because they figured more people will, instead of downsizing because they want to work from home, now they're going to want an office room.
Well,
So
they're also adding extra people. They're like adding.
Well, what we're really seeing are multifamilies, Alice, is I think people are
Mhm.
really wanting to see that more and more. And I think we're going to see, I think this is going to be an interesting year coming up. Are we going to see more applications for multifamily units and additions and things put onto properties? So it'll be, I think we're going to see a lot more of that. But Dave's right. He doesn't predict, you know, it all comes, he's the guy that follows up and kind of cleans up after all the sales are done, the world, how it came out. Hey, before we go, I say one thing about our good friend Guy Giles. I don't know if people know this, but his part of a church is what he does with a group called Helping Hands. And Guy, who was not with us today when we're doing the show, is actually out with volunteers. They go into the disaster areas and they don on specialized suits, and they do this for free. They go out into people's ruins and they help them find things that they may recover in their homes and in their properties. So
Oh, that's wonderful.
that's an amazing charity that they're doing, a ministry, whatever you want to call that. But Guy is out there doing that. He's even going to come and do our place, Alice, in another week or so. So people are like that, like Guy, who are out there doing that. And my goodness, they're so appreciative of us because without them, you know, it would be even harder than it is. So Guy, salute you for that. And I really do admire you for doing that.
What a big heart. He's great. So we're here with Dave Arrasmith, the assessor of Jackson County. And when the fires came, one of the other questions people had was, even if the lot, if your house burns down, is there any kind of a tax consequence for contamination? And it's probably hard to ask at this point because it's too soon, but that is a concern that some of our buyers and sellers have.
Is there a what?
Tax consequences to the contamination, the fees that the municipalities are going to be paying, and are we going to have to raise taxes to help offset any of those expenses?
I only know what I read, and there's not very much. It's been coming in piecemeal. The latest thing I read yesterday is probably this morning from the Tribune, was that the county's going to work real hard to try to get federal and state funding to cover 100% of that, so that the property owners won't have to put up a dime of it. Obviously, if the property owner, I don't have to predict too much here. If I was, because I could see myself, if somebody said it was going to cost me personally to clean up a lot, then I would have to think, you know what, I can't sell this at the same price of a lot that doesn't have any cleanup. So I'd have to,
I interrupt you.
Discount it.
Dave, okay, Alice, property owners need to register for that program, and the federal and the state will clean it up for you, but you have to register or you're going to be responsible for it yourself.
Exactly. And that's kind of what I'm reading too. And I hope they do get 100% funding for that. And I hope everybody has that information available to them so they take advantage of it.
Well, we're out of time, and it's just going to have you back again, Dave. Thank you so much. Dave Arrasmith, the Jackson County Assessor. Pete and Alice will be back next week with another interesting broadcast. You can also have a repeat of this broadcast tomorrow at 6 p.m. So go out and have a fabulous Southern Oregon weekend, and we'll talk to you next week. Bye now. Okay, I have to turn off the camera. Hold on.
You got to turn it back on again. Don't forget.
Oh, I'm going to leave it on. Okay.
Leave it on.
I'm going to leave it on.
Okay.
Yeah, because we forgot to do the first segment.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Dave, sorry about the choppiness.
Oh, I'm fine. I'm fine.
Okay.
That's good.
But it was great interview, great information. I think it's gonna be very comforting to a lot of the public who gets to hear it.
Yeah, I hope everybody gets past this and
Oh, we will.
and has a good life. You know, I went through a fire. I didn't lose my whole house. My kids left a candle burning in their bedroom, and then they knocked it over. We were 3 months in a hotel while the house got put back together.
Wow. Everybody okay?
But it's so far behind me, you know, that I don't think about it anymore, and
Yeah.
I don't hardly remember the difficulty of that time. So
Was that here in Oregon or?
yeah. Of course, my kids, they enjoyed it, to tell you the truth. We got put up in the Rogue Regency Hotel,
Uh-huh.
and they had swimming pools, and they could order meals to the room, and then they got all brand new clothes, all brand new toys, and they were at that young age where they were growing through all of their clothes, you know. So everything they had was either, you know, so probably a little short because we didn't want to, you know, buy it until we had to.
Yeah. How funny. How funny. So, well, we really appreciate your time, and we appreciate
Dave,
your service.
we'll talk to you soon, Dave. Take care.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Okay. Sorry about that. Okay.
Yeah, that's an interesting job.
Yeah, he's so good with numbers. Wow. Okay, so this is going to be video editors. This is our first segment, 3 minutes, Pete and Alice radio only. Right?
Yep. 3
Okay.
minutes. Yep.
Starting in 3, 2, 1.